It only makes sense that we follow up the first off weekend of the NASCAR season with arguably one of the most physical races. How's it going, everybody? Hope your day is going well. My name is Eric, and you are watching Out of the Groove. So let's talk about the race this last weekend. Kyle Larson, oh wait, there wasn't a race this last weekend. What was I watching? Just making sure y'all are paying attention. Sometimes I'm not. So yes, of course, you guys are probably thinking, Eric, there wasn't a race this last weekend. What are you going to talk about? Well, you see, I had no idea. That's the truth. Not a lot of new information coming out this last week. Not a lot of excitement. A couple small things I guess I can hit on. After Texas Motor Speedway, it was announced last week sometime that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Have suffered or committed a small lug nut infraction, so they've been fined $10,000, but that's about it. And in other news, according to NASCAR.com, Bubba Wallace and Ryan Blaney went fishing, so that's pretty interesting. Ooh, what's this? A chance to win $1 million? Haha. Oh, it's if Kevin Harvick wins the All-Star race. Yeah, what are the odds of that happening? That's an ugly car. Jeez, not really ugly car. Not a fan. I'd pay $1 million to not have to watch that thing. But what else is going on? Oh, that's right, the All-Star race was announced, but I talked about that last week. I probably should have put that off. Brad Keselowski's crew chief, Paul Wolfe, will be suspended for the next couple of races, but I think I've also mentioned that as well. So you know it's a slow week in NASCAR when probably one of the things that made the most ripples in the NASCAR community, especially in my little neck of the woods, came from a fake news article / ambiguous tweets. So I guess that's what I can talk about a little bit. For those of you who watch consistently my Friday night live streams that I do somewhat consistently, this may not be completely new to you. But around last Thursday, last Friday, I started to get a lot of messages from on YouTube, on Twitter, and then of course during the live stream that I did on Friday, about rumors that Matt Kenseth was going to announce his retirement this week. It just makes sense that people would like to speculate that he's going to retire anytime soon. I mean, right now that Gordon's gone, Stewart's gone, Greg Biffle's gone, Matt Kenseth is the oldest full-time driver on the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series circuit. And he's only 45, so he's not that old. But alas, given his age and given JGR's kind of downturn so far this season, led to even more speculation than usual. It doesn't help that JGR just saw Carl Edwards leave out of nowhere, and Dave Rogers is currently undergoing a leave of absence. So people seem to be just trying to get away from Gibbs. Don't know what that's about. Not to mention that Matt Kenseth still has unsponsored races for this season, and his contract is up after this year. A lot of signs point to this could be his last season full-time in the Cup Series. And so, of course, when there were tweets circulating around, rumors floating that there was a press conference set for Wednesday for Matt Kenseth, a lot of people immediately assumed, oh, he's going to announce that he's going to retire at the end of the season. And so I immediately got a ton of comments of people saying, oh, I think Kenseth's going to retire, what do you think, what do you think, what do you think, what do you think? And I was like, where are you getting this information? I could never find any of this information coming from a reliable source. So I did what most people should do when they are expecting news of some kind or unsure of news. I waited until I heard it straight from the horse's mouth. So yes, I waited until Wednesday's press conference with Matt Kenseth. I mean, I heard all the rumors afterwards, after the initial retirement rumors, people saying, oh, it's at the Hall of Fame, there's going to be a sponsorship announcement. I was like, that makes sense too. So I kind of had an idea of what it was actually going to be. But yeah, sure enough, the announcement on Wednesday for Matt Kenseth was just another sponsor announcement. Circle K, which I guess they don't have those where I'm from, but I guess that's like a gas station convenience store type place. Is going to be sponsoring Kenseth for a few races this season, so now he's only got a few more unsponsored gaps. But yeah, so in the end, a lot of nothing. Even the most exciting potential story of the week turns out to kind of be a lot of nothing. I just find it interesting, I guess it's a day and age, these NASCAR drivers, they do make a lot of money. Like, Matt Kenseth could retire and be well off for the rest of his life. That's what Jeff Gordon did, that's what Tony Stewart did. In a lot of ways, that's what Carl Edwards did. But it's got to be exhausting, especially if you're Matt Kenseth or some of these other older drivers like Dale Earnhardt Jr. or even Jimmy Johnson or Kevin Harvick in this Cup Series. Drivers are getting over 40, starting to get a little bit older. It's got to be frustrating to know that around every corner, it seems, as more drivers drop off, there will be constant retirement talks surrounding you. That's got to be pretty annoying to have these drivers to have to constantly face those questions, And all those drivers I just mentioned are still running pretty much at the top of their game. I mean, Johnson just won at Texas, Harvick's still good, Kenseth's still, Gibbs needs to turn it around, but he's still competitive. It's just interesting to me that, ever since Jeff Gordon announced his retirement, it seems like everyone is just on high alert for driver retirement. And, in the case of Jeff Gordon or Tony Stewart, you can kind of see it coming from a mile away. But then we do get surprised occasionally with the Brian Scotts and the Carl Edwards. Matt Kenseth has been quoted multiple times just within the last 8 months or a year saying he wants to drive for several more years at least. In fact, there was a quote last August from an article I read recently that said, where Matt Kenseth said literally that he feels as good now as he did 10 years ago. So at least in terms of Matt Kenseth, it doesn't seem like health is a driving force behind his career choices right now. But it is the off weekend. A lot of people need to find a story somewhere. Need to find something to talk about. And go with what you got. I, for one, as a Matt Kenseth fan, I'm glad he's not retiring yet. He could still retire at the end of this season. I'm not going to rule that out completely because, like I mentioned, I think last week briefly, and mentioned again today, it really annoys me. It really just confuses me why Matt Kenseth is the one driver who never seems to be able to consistently hold on to sponsors. And in NASCAR, sponsors are what makes the world go round, or the cars go round the track. So if you don't have a sponsor, you're not going in circles. And I think I mentioned this last week briefly. I find it interesting. It seems like this happened. This is kind of what did Matt Kenseth in at Roush. When he was with Roush Fenway Racing for the first 10 years of his career or so, he had DeWalt sponsoring him consistently, and that was back in the day it was more common to see long-term sponsors like that stick around. We saw DuPont with Jeff Gordon for a long time. Lowe's had been with Jimmy for a while. Home Depot with Tony Stewart. It was common to see big companies like that sponsor a driver for a long period of time. Nowadays, it's definitely not as common. And it seemed like when Matt Kenseth left Roush Fenway Racing in 2012, that year, and kind of 2011 a little bit too, especially when Crown Royal quit sponsoring the 17 car, it seemed like Matt Kenseth was one of the only top-notch NASCAR drivers out there. He was still competing. He was finished like 4th in points that year. He was one of the only top-notch NASCAR drivers not able to hold on to sponsors consistently. In fact, in 2012, if I'm not mistaken, at least half of his races were run technically unsponsored with Ford EcoBoost as a sponsor. And I'm pretty sure sponsorship had quite a bit to do with why Matt Kenseth ultimately left. And then since he got to Roush, Matt Kenseth obviously had Dollar General stepped up as a great sponsor for the first 3 or 4 years Kenseth was there. But of course this year Dollar General is gone as well, and DeWalt. Once again, DeWalt, the good old, if I ever need power tools in the future, I will buy DeWalt. See, companies, this is what NASCAR sponsorship can do for you. It's worth it. But now that DeWalt stepped up to a bigger role, they're sponsoring almost half of his races this year, things are looking okay for Kenseth still. But, now that Dollar General's left, and this is Kenseth's last year of his contract, Tide has come in and sponsored a couple of races, Peak and Blue Deft are sponsoring a few races, but he's still got a good 5 to 10 races unsponsored. And we saw at Texas Motor Speedway last weekend, he drove the Toyota Let's Go Places car. Translation, he was unsponsored. Yes, Matt Kenseth is not one of the top 5 most popular drivers. He's not Jimmy Johnson, he's not Dale Earnhardt Jr., he's not Kyle Busch, he's not one of the most popular drivers in the sport. I get that. But I just look at some other drivers that I would say are kind of comparable in terms of popularity. Like Joey Logano. He's had Pennzoil for like 5 straight years now, and they don't show any signs of leaving him. So what's he got? Seems like everyone hates him. Denny Hamlin has held on to FedEx for more than 12 years, and they just signed an extension, so he's going to be with FedEx for more than 15 years. And no offense to Denny Hamlin, I love Denny Hamlin. But what has he done? I wouldn't say he's any better than Matt Kenseth. I get there are guys like Dale Earnhardt Jr., who he's held on to Nationwide now for a few years and probably for at least a little while longer. And Dale Jr., he's the most popular driver in the sport. Obviously, that makes sense. And even Kyle Busch has always held on to M&M's or the Mars products. He's well known. He's popular. That makes sense as well. Or Lowe's and Jimmy Johnson. When you've won 7 championships, I'm pretty sure they're going to give you a small discount, Lowe's. You've been a big help. I just question, why is it that Matt Kenseth seems to always get the short end of the stick? Is it because he's quieter than these other drivers? I don't know. NASCAR definitely runs itself more like a business compared to most other sports, especially not when you look at the team level. Like the NFL, the NBA, yes, they're clearly a big business and they run it like a business. But when you actually look at the team level, like the Dallas Cowboys, they don't run it as much. They're not running a business as much as they're running a football team that's trying to win games. In NASCAR, there's a fine line. There's quite the balance between the two. NASCAR, you obviously have to run good equipment, have to hire the best crew members, guys, drivers, everything to win races and run well, obviously, but at the same time you have to do a lot to pander to the sponsors, to hold on to sponsors, to go find new sponsors, to find places you can get these immense sums of money so that you're able to fund your racing team each week. It's a completely different animal than a lot of other sports teams have to combat. being a sport that relies so much on external sponsors, not only to fund commercials for the races on TV or billboards and ads at the tracks themselves, but also having to find sponsors to sponsor the individual cars. 40 cars each week need to have a company on them. Sometimes many companies on them. It's a lot to worry about and a lot to keep track of and a lot to maintain. And I have to compliment NASCAR. It's impressive they've been able to hold on to it so long. And it really hasn't taken away from the viewing pleasure at all either. I mean, NASCAR is always having to pander to sponsors. It's, these drivers are walking around in fire suits that look like billboards you'd see on the side of a freeway. And it hasn't gotten in the way of the enjoyment of it, at least not in my opinion. Bristol is this weekend one of my favorite races to watch, one of my favorite tracks, maybe even my favorite track to watch a race at least on TV. I've never been to Bristol. Hope to go one day. Should be exciting. If you want to know my picks, I'm going to actually pick Kyle Busch. Yep. I think Joe Gibbs Racing, they were strong at Martinsville. I think Joe Gibbs Racing will turn it around and they'll get their... Yeah, they haven't won yet this year, have they? Yeah, I think Joe Gibbs Racing will get their first win of the year here at at Bristol. Dang it. So yeah, there you have it. A lot of talking about Joe Gibbs Racing. Sorry for you, those of you who are not Joe Gibbs Racing fans. They were the only ones making headlines this week. Maybe that was their plan all along. Think about it. There's no race this weekend. There's no drama to talk about, so Joe Gibbs Racing, what do? They schedule a ambiguous, mysterious Matt Kenseth announcement for the middle of the week to get everyone thinking, everyone's eyes looking on them, and then they reveal a new sponsor. It's a good business plan. Kudos to Joe Gibbs Racing, and I fell for it. Dang it. Anyway, guys, that's all I have. Thank you for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. There'll be more to talk about next week after Bristol. More actual racing-related stuff to talk about. We'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching. Follow me on Twitter, Patreon, all that fun stuff is in the description. Oh my goodness. Whew, yeah, a lot of fun stuff. If you didn't see my little teaser earlier this week for the WWE Cup Series Season 8, that is available as well. I haven't announced signups or anything yet, so you're not missing anything major. That's still a couple weeks away. Just giving you guys a slight tease, as they call in the business. Woohoo! But yeah, guys, that's all I have. Thanks for watching. I appreciate all of your support. I'll see you guys next Thursday. Have a good week.